Hey guys, welcome back to Enter the Atmosphere. This week I'm going to teach you a trick. I like to call it the chop chop effect. It's I've used it on a lot of records over the years. It's fun. It's definitely dramatic. It'll definitely light you up. It's fun. Did I say it's fun? It's fun. So then I got a few things on my mind that have been going on the web that are just kind of chapping me. So I need to speak up and defend what we love to do, because there's a lot of misinformation out there that's just bugging me. But we'll get into that. Let's do it.
I'll try another pass.
Okay, put it in the Atmos theme. All right, guys, before we do our master class, I'm going to go over a couple of things that I heard this weekend. I like to sit down on the weekend and watch everything I possibly can about Dolby Atmos, see what people are saying. And I tell you what, this weekend got me kind of fired up. We'll cover 2 or 3 things that are just absolutely wrong. And it sucks that people are telling people this kind of stuff. But number one, we'll go over the things that have really got me fired up. Number one, the center channel bull, okay? I've heard people saying that Universal won't accept masters if you use a center channel, and for various reasons, and I've heard 10 different reasons why. Well, I can tell you right now, I've done a lot of work for Universal. I did the entire Eric Church catalog for Jay Joyce and Universal, and there was never a mention of that. The only thing that Universal does is unique from some of the other record labels is their deliverables. They like the 80M BWF like everybody else. They like to get a high-res binaural mix, and they also like to get an MP4. And then the other thing that's different than most everybody else is they like to have all the stems that you're using. So the stems that you get from the producer, whether that be audio stems or whether that be, the whole entire session, whatever, they like to have a copy of that too. So that's the only thing different about them. As far as the center channel, you can do whatever you want with it. I mean, personally, I don't use it that much. I'm not a big fan of vocals or bass or kick or snare, anything in the center. I like LR Phantom. That's just my personal preference. But you can do whatever you want to. So let's clear that up. That's bull. Number 2, and this one really chaps me. Spotify HD is not online yet. We don't have Dolby Atmos on Spotify yet. Is it coming? Yeah, it's coming. But it's not here yet. And people are out there saying this and that about it, that it's already... Wow. Okay, it's not here. Simple. Okay? All right, point number 3. Is it economically smart as an engineer to get into doing Dolby Atmos? Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the economics of it. And I'm here in Nashville. It's different in New York. It's different in LA. It's different in Atlanta, Miami. It's different everywhere. But just to give you an example of Nashville. Right now, as of today's the 7th of July, 2023, there are 42 Dolby Atmos studios online rocking right now in Nashville. There's so much work out there, it's unbelievable. You got to be good, and you got to know people, and you got to network, and you got to be consistent on turning stuff in on time to get that kind of work. But right now, I went almost 400 days in a row without having a day off because I'm just trying to keep up and maintain pace. That's how much work there is out there. So it's like people say, well, it costs so much for all these speakers and the computers and the, having a matrix and Dante and all blah, 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 blah. Okay. You can mix on headphones. It's not optimal, and you still need to go check it in a proper room. But if you can't afford, to buy all this stuff right now, start on headphones. Take your mixes over to a buddy's, or go rent out a commercial studio here in town for an hour or 30 minutes to go check your mixes. Our go buy me a nice bottle of whiskey and come to me. Playing. It's definitely one of those things that if you make the leap and you buy the gear, and you have to be good at your craft, but it makes 100%. It's there's so much work to go around. I mean, there's a lot of guys here in town doing it and making great records, and it's I'll never go back. And I'm a firm believer. I have a phrase that I like to use. I call it Atmos first, because I truly believe within a short amount of time that's where we're going to be headed. When the Spotify thing does come online, I think that's the death of stereo. Because where we're going, quite frankly, you can hear Atmos everywhere. By this time next year, it'll be 90% of the cars are going to have it already. Your homes have it, your phones have it. It's everywhere. So the great frontier still left is terrestrial radio. But I'm going to be showing you guys over the course of the next few weeks how to start with an Atmos mix and how to maintain control of that Atmos mix all the way down to your 2 mix when you render. So if you set your template up right and you have control, for example, of the bass guitar from start to finish, from mastering and mixing, you have control of it all the way through. Well, there's no reason that you need to even worry about doing a stereo mix until you render it down, because a good friend of mine, Christine Thomas from Dolby, gave the best example of why this is the future. If you take a picture, if you take a camera, this is a 4K camera. It's only broadcasting in 1080p. And I look good, I know. But if you take a 4K camera and you take a picture of something and dumb it down to 1080p versus taking a 1080p camera and take a picture of something and you look at the two, which one's going to look better? I tell you, the 4K is going to look better. It's capturing more information. There's more things. That's exactly what happens when you do Atmos first. When you mix it in this environment, you've got a place for everything. And the amazing thing is when you fold down to 2, it's all there. It's all still there. Now, granted, there's things about a 2 mix that you have to do. The way I like to do is I mix in Atmos, and then I print my pre-master that I'm going to use for the stereo mix, and I print my Atmos pre-master that I'm going to master in Atmos. So they're 2 separate ways of mastering, totally different ways of doing it. But and then you can make tweaks. So you get your Atmos mix perfect. Your clients are happy. Here's why this is going to stick. 1, it's more effective, cost effective, and time effective. From a label standpoint, they pay one time. They pay to get the Atmos mix and the 2 mix. And the mastering on the Atmos side is part of it for what I do. And sometimes I even master the 2. You still want to send that off to somebody, a professional that does that. You know, a lot of great mastering engines, Bob Ludwig and so forth, the guys like that. But what's the problem is labels get this mix done, and then it's Atmos was an afterthought. Now it's become a very important part. It's only going to make sense as time moves on. They're going to want to have it all at once instead of getting the 2 mix, and then 5 weeks later, 6 weeks later, they get the Atmos mix. It screws up release dates. It's just a whole lot better for them and a lot more, it makes more economical sense to do it all at once. Your artists, your producers, your A&R people, everybody approves everything one time, and you're rocking. It's the way it's going. And I've been doing it now. I've mixed a little over, right at 3,000 songs totally in Dolby Atmos. And I've probably done Atmos first now, maybe 100, maybe 150 songs that I've done. And it's an amazing difference. You won't believe it. And people go, what? And they don't understand until you've actually done it. Just mix 1 in Atmos and then bring it down to 2. And then if you got your template set up right, you can still tweak at that point all the way to the final print. You can tweak and tweak and tweak and then print and then master it traditionally. So it saves time, saves money, and it's coming, boys. I'm telling you, I hate to be the bearer of bad news for guys, but just like everybody said, analog tape will never go away. I mean, I ran a studio till my fingers bled, and it's gone. You know, things change. This is a good change. This is something that's a lot of people don't understand the power of Atmos and how incredible it can sound. Granted, in a room, but it can also sound incredible in these. you gotta work towards that. You gotta work towards, hey, I'm gonna do everything I possibly can to get this to sound as amazing as I can on headphones. Because at the end of the day, our customers is that right there, our cell phones. So we gotta get it the best we can. Anyways, people ranting and raving about it costs too much to get into it, this and that, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's expensive to get into it, but I look at it like this way: how many businesses do you know that you can start up, and you have your cost of getting into the game, and that you could be cash flow positive in 6 months, maybe less. It doesn't take a rocket science to figure that out. It's a pretty good deal. Usually it's 2-3 years before you're in the black. You're in the red forever, you know. So it's an exciting time, and I encourage anybody that hasn't taken the plunge yet, man, go for it. It's where the future's headed. And I feel blessed and lucky that I got in as early as I did, and I'm keep going from here. And I encourage anybody, come on in, boys. The water's nice. Let's do this. All right. Now let's get into. We'll head on over to Pro Tools here, and let me show you the chop chop effect. Come on. All right, everybody, put your headphones on so we can listen to this in binaural and you can check out this effect, the chop chop. Yeah. All right. So first off, I'm going to play you what this is. This is like a harp sound that starts off with a little flourish thing, and then it goes into an arpeggio, and then it goes back into the flourish. So my thoughts on this were, let's give it some movement. There's a lot of ways you can do this, but let me play it for you first and let you hear what it's all about. Here we go. All right, cool. So you hear where it gets into this middle section right here where it goes into an arpeggio kind of jam there. So my thoughts are I wanted to make it move around the room, and I wanted to break it down into, my first thought was half notes, quarter notes. Wind up, the best thing that worked out was 64th notes. So one way of doing this is to use the Dolby Panner, and you can put it on there and you know, draw your lines and draw your circles and stuff like that. And it's cool, but the bummer of that is you're limited to the bed, and it's not clean, precise jumps between the materials. So here's what I came up with. I'll show you this. So you take that center section. So this starts right here on the arpeggio where it goes. Now, what we're going to do first is we need to chop that up into 64 notes. So I'll do a few and then I'm going to fast forward, but you just basically it's Apple E and just run down through here and click. And I've got it in grid mode so that I don't screw up. Okay, so now I got it all chopped up. Now what are we going to do? This is where it gets fun. So now pick a random number of tracks. For something this long, I'm probably going to do, I think we'll do 10 or let's do 11. It's one better. So let's do 11. So here's what I did. I know this is going to look nuts, but let's take this down to where we can see it. All right. Let's take this down to small. So now what I've done here with Mr. Harp is I've created all these tracks here. Let's take them down one notch more so we can kind of see. Okay, so all these tracks here. I think that's 10 of them. Okay. Plus 1, 11. All right, I was right. So we take all these tracks and we take each one of these little pieces and we just copy and paste it down into each one of these things all the way down through, okay? And then you just do I did some random stuff. It doesn't matter where you put them. You can put them all on the line because we're going to change that here in a minute anyways. So you get this all done. So I'll chop it up and go in, and once you chop it up, now it's going to separate tracks. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to come into each one of these tracks, and you want to set the pan. Okay, this one's panned here, and if you look, the very next one is panned at the back of the room in the corner, and the very next one is panned at the top of the room in the corner. So it's this little crazy pattern going back and forth all over the entire room. And you keep that going, and then the next thing you do, once you got all those pans set on all those different ones, before it's all ready, you want to highlight the whole entire thing and hit the old good old Apple F and hit your fades. That way you got either it's clean in and out so it doesn't pop. And if you want it to pop, just don't do that because it probably will. So, all right, so now you got your fades done. Now, the last trick is you want to come into your little harp section here. And each one of these has been set to an object. So in my case, it starts at 81 and runs all the way to 91. I take that back, so there's 10. Okay. And they're all, you can see where I panned them all to different spots. And they're all doing their business there. So now what I did is I also took, sent it to a reverb here. I'll show you what that's doing. It's the Rev T. This is now an object as well. That way it's controllable, so if you get too much, you can always turn it down to mastering or later down the road. And this is basically the wonderful Fab Filter Pro R, which I love, set to Lucky 7s, 3 7s, and another EQ dipping out taking the top pretties because it's such a bright sound and just you want to dull it up and give it a mood. Okay. So here it was before. Okay, cool. Now, let's make sure we keep our intro because I didn't do it to the intro, so we want to make sure this from right here to right here is muted. That way we can leave it all on. Okay. So here we go. Okay. So here we go. All right. So what's about to play is this front part's going to play, and it's just going to the top in the front. And the back part's going to the top in the front. And then when it hits the arpeggiation section, that's when it's doing what we just concocted. So here we go, and it's got a little bit of that 7.7 reverb from the Fab, just to give it this omnis thing. So, but you should really be able to feel it moving around in the room. It's crazy. It make you seasick, but it's a really cool effect when you put it in the mix. And I've used this on several records from the Hollywood Undead. I've used it on Jason Aldean. I've used it on J-Lo, just a bunch of different people. But it's a really cool trick. And just kind of thinking outside the box, a little bit. So here you go. Check. There you go. My fun little chop effect. So I hope you find that useful. And don't limit yourself to just using it on arpeggiations and things like that. You can actually take depending on the genre of the music, but you can take a pad and chop it up and move it around, and it's just a cool way to get some. I've used it on vocals where I wanted to have an effect of, back and forth. I've used that on the Hollywood Dead Chaos song. There's a spot in there where it's a real deep voice. It goes, I forget what exactly it says, but it goes da 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 back and forth, and it'll make you. I did it between the two side speakers and chopped it up, and it'll make you jump out of your seat. So it's fun. But yeah. So use it as you want, and make it your own, and keep rocking. Well, appreciate you guys this week, and you guys all have a great weekend, and remember to subscribe, ring the bell. I'm getting close to almost having 100 subscribers. I know it's not a lot, but hey, we're just getting started, and I really appreciate every one of you guys. So y'all have a blessed weekend. We'll see you soon.
Don't forget, subscribe and click the bell down below and make sure you get notified for all of our upcoming episodes here at Enter the Atmosphere.